welcome to the Women of BSV. We are honored and delighted to have Luke Wenceslas Mayernik as our guest today. He is an award-winning organist, composer of divine liturgy, psalters. He has completed his master's degree in composition, as well as working towards completing his doctorate in composition as well. He has produced film scores and lots of beautiful sacred music. He has recently become the Chief Operating Officer of Blarecast Systems. So we are thrilled to speak with you today. Welcome, Luke.
Thank you, Rory, and thanks to all of you, wonderful women of BSV, for having me today.
We're thrilled to have you on. We really are.
Thank you, Ruth.
Yeah, I've been listening to your music all day, and I had no idea. I had no idea how talented you are. It's beautiful stuff.
I appreciate that.
I really recommend it. So, your what's it called? SoundCloud is what I've been listening to.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Rory, fire with your questions, because I know you're a bit more organised than I am on the question front. Where are we going to start asking Luke about his background?
Yes, I think, Luke, I've seen in your banner image, you have some notation on many of your social media sites. Mm-hmm. So could you tell us what that symbolizes or what that means to represent you?
Oh, yeah. So that actually is a small little pic of it's called a graphic score. It was a graphic score depicting the 446 bridges of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I grew up. So actually that's one of the unique and significant traits about Pittsburgh, is that there are 446 bridges there, and not necessarily bridges that cross over, water. So it's a very interesting place. And one of the assignments that we had during our graduate work, we took a very extensive and intensive course on, very experimental music composition, and it was devising graphic scores. So when you place them in front of the players, they have to interpret what they see, not necessarily just the pure notation in standard Western music that we have come in contact with, whether we were in grade school, learning the recorder or in school choir or whatever. So, yeah.
Wow. So it is a graphic representation of bridges, but it can be used to improvise music.
Yes.
And as a student of music, a scholar in music, really, what value do you place on improvisation?
I think that improvisation is a very important trait and an important skill to foster and to work on. If you look back in the history of Western music, and in particular some of the courts of France, Germany, England, some of the the chapel positions for the organist, such as like Bach or Handel or all of these other great composers, the organist or the composer had to improvise, either on the organ or on the harpsichord or even on the violin. So one of my favorite court composers is probably Marjan Murray from France. Very beautiful music. And he played the viola da gamba, much like the modern cello, with just a few, differences. And he was a phenomenal improviser. And that was a trait that had to be cultivated. You had to be known as an improviser in order to be awarded these positions. But as we move toward the 20th and the 21st century, there's been this kind of divide in the camp, especially in the organ world, although not in France, because they do cultivate, and England as well, they cultivate the improvisatory nature of filling in, when there's silence, or, if we need an extension on a hymn. France and England are doing that now. But in the States, there's like this divergence where there are organists that only play the repertoire and they don't necessarily improvise, or you have the organists that just improvise quite a bit and they struggle in the area of the repertoire. I had to do both, obviously. But I've put more focus on the improvisational element, and I think that's really served me in the in the long run. Although I will say, the more music that you consume, and the more you learn from other people, the more you distill that into your own voice, and it comes out, because obviously art isn't created in a vacuum. The artist can only say in their own way what they have already been told, to very poorly quote one of the great composers, Igor Stravinsky. So I'm a product of what has come before me, and I'm better for it. The more I study of these people that have really paved the way, have really codified the canon and the literature, and those who are making groundbreaking efforts to transcend these genres and the history itself. So, yeah.
Where did that initial love of music come from? I mean, for the way that you explain things, this is like, it's a lifestyle, it's a passion, it is like literally in your bloodstream. So this is something that you like since birth. It sounds like to me that it's literally, you're in the womb, your mum's playing music, you come out and there it is. You are like now born into music. Is that kind of how it was? So did your parents have a musical background as well, or is this something independent of them?
Thanks for the question. And actually, to answer it, I really don't come from a musical background. We have a lot of people in the family that can hum a tune and stay in tune, but they don't read music, or they never really studied an instrument or anything like that. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I remember my dad came home from work. I was about 7 or 8 at the time, and he saw me not getting very involved in sports or anything like that. And he came home from work. He said, "Would you like to learn how to play the piano?" And I thought about it for a couple seconds, and I said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "Well, I'll find you a nice little upright piano, and we'll get you a teacher."
How old were you?
I was about 7 or 8. Yeah, I was about 7 or 8.
Oh, that's a good, yeah.
So
that's really good to know. I have a guitar in my house. I bought it for my son, who's now 12, but my 2-year-old keeps picking it up and putting it on her lap and banging on it.
She scratchboarded it.
Yeah, and I keep thinking, I need to just put a YouTube video on, let her watch it and learn from that, because I'm not super musical and didn't grow up with that, but I can play by ear. When I played the piano, I can still play a piece from the ballet, The Swan Lake, that I remember.
Wow.
And that's promising to know that it's just like within you and that epigenetic information, because I really want to get my daughter into music, but I felt, there's nobody here to like have her be exposed to that through osmosis. But it's awesome to see that it can just be.
What was the first thing you... Sorry, Casey. What was the first thing that you learned then? I mean, obviously, it's quite hardcore learning the piano from scratch, but was there something that like stuck out that you remembered that actually made you want to continue, learning and then developing from that?
Well, so when you first start lessons that young, it's a lot of repetition, and at a child at that age, anyone that can sometimes get a little difficult. I actually have to credit it to my dad, because there was a time when I started the lessons, right? So we're a couple months in, and he kind of picked up that I wasn't really practicing. So what he would do is, and he couldn't play a lick, he would come home from work, and my dad was a laborer. He was a maintenance man at a huge electric power company. So he was always like very dirty, right? And he's had his sleeves rolled up and everything, and he had his work boots on, and he had his lunch pail, and he walked through the door, and I'd watch him. He'd go into the living room, to the dining living room area where the piano was. And then he would start banging on the low part, and then banging on the high part. then he'd start singing this ridiculous song and making up words, and and then it made me get up and go over and watch him, and it would make me smile, and then I would go and practice. So I have to really,
very clever.
I have to really attribute that to him. And then at some point, it just kind of, something just grabbed me. Something outside of myself, and it clicked, and I just stuck with it. So
that's so inspiring. That's really inspiring. Like go in it through the like humor. Very inspiring.
Thank
The
you.
power of the parents.
Yeah, power of the parents.
And of play, to take a playful attitude, to encourage or to persuade.
What genre of music were you learning to start with as well? I mean, because that obviously has a big kind of sway in which direction you went eventually with it.
Absolutely. So I'm so glad that you asked this question, Diddy, and I'm really excited to tell the story. So I obviously started with just a lot of the rudimentary things, you know, up and down. You put your thumbs on middle C and you do this, and then you go up the scale and down the scale and all that kind of stuff. Then I started with the classics, right? So classical music. So it was very, very heavily classically focused. But something happened after several years of studying with this teacher. Her name was Burl Fleming. She's from my hometown, and actually just several years ago, she died at the age of 105.
Wow.
So at some point, it's like I was like 10 or 11. It was 10 or 11. I was starting to play for churches, and she also taught organ as well. So I went to organ. So I was learning to play with both feet, you know, and the hands at the same time. And what happened was I started to bring the hymns into my lesson to practice with her. But what I did, I was starting to change harmonies here and there. I was starting to change voicings. I was like, you know, we can substitute this chord for this chord. And I'll tell you, she got very, very upset with me. She said, no, you need to stay and play what's on the page. You know, you cannot deviate. But I kept deviating. I kept modulating. I was able to figure out how to modulate in all 12 keys. And it was just because of my ear. I could just hear it. And that was it was hard, and it made me cry a little bit when I was that young, but I still kept going with it. I ended up going to another teacher, and this other teacher really encouraged that side of me, and that
use your imagination to its fullest ability.
And that really helped.
Yeah.
That
Very
really helped. But I can say this: before my first piano teacher died, I accomplished all of these. I won all these competitions in organ playing, improvisation and composition and all this stuff. And I was able to go to her house in my hometown, you know, before she died. And I knocked on her door, and I just said, I just want to say thank you to you, and thank you for teaching me. And, you know, I wouldn't be the person or the musician that I am today if it wasn't for you. And she really appreciated that. I was so happy to tell her that.
It must be amazing as a piano teacher to see your students come back fully grown and having been through, you know, university and on their way to a doctorate. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
Can I just mention, you remind me so much of my mum. She taught herself the piano, and she was an amazing pianist. Unfortunately, I don't have any of her skill at all. But she had a big Wurlitzer, like with the multiple keyboards.
Oh, yeah, it's an organ. Yeah, sure.
So she could play all 4 kind of keyboards, including the feet.
Oh, wow.
You know? And like you, she was an incredible improviser. And when I say that, what I mean is that she would add notes.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So adding notes or taking notes away, or, you know, there's a certain chord progression, either whether it be with the guitar or the piano or whatever. But you when you get to the landing chord, you may change that landing chord as a surprise, or you may reharmonize all the other chords.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Make it your own.
And make it your own. Yeah.
Well, that's what my mum used to do. She's just, you know, and she'd never play anything as it was on the page. It was always Jones version, you know, just but beautifully though. But she just add extra notes, pretty much.
All the time. Or I'm sure she probably took some notes away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would use those as samples and then do what I do, which is just literally get a load of samples and just drag and drop them all together, put them into a piece of software, and then just mix them all together. That's kind of what I do. It's not really being musical at all in that respect.
Oh,
But
I would
Well,
disagree, Diddy.
I
well, it's not in
totally
sound
disagree.
engineering. It's different from actually musical composition of being able to hear by ear and be able to read music and play something. It's very different. So, you know, it is different. That's how I see it. But interestingly, I've finished my master's, which is in metaphysical sciences, which was actually sound and music for better mental health. So I'm going to do my doctorate, which I want to do on sound resonance and frequency. So maybe I should speak to you and get some pointers off you.
Well,
as well.
there are some composers in that world in the middle part of the 20th century, women actually, like Ilan Radik from France. She was so groundbreaking in acoustics and sound design. She would take these snippets and she would organize them all. I mean, this stuff was happening in the 50s and 60s. It's just incredible. And I love her music, and I call it music. It's actually real composition. So, you know, taking how you do it, Diddy, taking those samples and arranging them in a certain way, or erasing some of them, or fading some of them in, or fading some of them out. That's all a part. I mean, for me, that's composition. I mean, to me, there's no difference than sitting at a piano and banging out a couple of chords or melodies and writing it out by hand. It's like totally the same thing for me. You know, it's just another process of writing. You know,
I suppose you do it more long form. It's kind of more a long form.
I do. But when I do work in film, though, I'm usually working in a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation, Logic Pro, or if maybe some of you work in Cubase or GarageBand. So I will think more abstract and more sonic. Especially when I'm scoring a film. So I'm not necessarily thinking about the traditional model of, okay, this note needs to go here, this chord needs to go here.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose in that respect, though, you've got this studio surrounding. So you've got the soundboard, you've got the gates, you've got the compressors, you've got all of this equipment there as well to help you be able to actually experiment with the sound that you're making as well to then expand on it. And I'm glad you brought up film, because I again was listening to your SoundCloud, and there are some beautiful compositions on there which you have done as film scores. But there's also going into a different field, there is this really lovely composition called A Tribute to Jerry French, and there is also this like, and this for me is the most perfect blend of awesomeness and jazziness, because I love jazz, but you did Aussie Man Bad.
Oh yeah.
So how did
Okay. All right. So obviously I'm a performer, right? So I play the piano. And I'm working in the digital audio workstation. So I work in Logic Pro X. Well, you can actually purchase all of these wonderful virtual sound libraries where you have string sections, percussion, saxophones, all sorts of things. And I've got a MIDI keyboard here. So I hook it up into the digital audio workstation, and I can literally play. And obviously they're velocity sensitive, so I can get the phrasing just right. So I play it in.
Because it sounds like it's been performed by an orchestra.
So my partner Cassidy, she's always been very she's like, how do you make the music sound as though it's real people doing it? And so what I do is I go and I can play the drums a little bit, and I can watch other people play, and I'll listen to recordings of that. And I'll say, this is how I need to scope this out. I'm not just going to do just a regular beat. I try to create that atmosphere, like a live atmosphere, and try to make it, I strive to make the virtual instruments sound as real as possible.
Well, you succeed, because I wanted to ask you about that, because I was like, this must be very expensive to record all of this, but apparently not. But it sounds real.
Yeah, that's the magic of sound engineering, isn't it? You see.
Yeah. So, and to answer your, and thank you so much for that compliment, Ruth, and to get back to you, Diddy, about the sampling. So if you listen to the drum kit of Aussie Man Bad, there's no loops in there at all. Everything has been the ride cymbal, the bass drum. I played it all in real time. And then I went in and I just took some things away. I said, oh, I think something needs to happen here now. And then I said, is that even physically possible? I've got my both feet going. I got my hands going. I'm thinking like a drummer now. I'm thinking about it. I've got my snare drum here. I got my hi-hat. I've got my ride cymbal, my crash. Is that even possible for the drummer to do? So I'm never using loops. If I want to create a loop, I will record it myself and then loop it back. But usually I do it all in real time. And that's why I try to make it sound as real as possible.
So how
fascinating to watch artists work like that. I would love to just watch. I love to watch people in their element doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have an open mic night jam session with the Women of BSV.
Yeah.
So we'll have to invite you.
Okay.
And we
Now,
can all
Rory-
be jamming.
Rory used to sing in a punk band.
Oh, she's amazing.
Oh, really?
She's amazing.
Wow.
Sorry,
Well,
Rory.
And
We
she
would-
won't give us her YouTube link.
Oh, really?
I know. I need to find it. I'll put it in. I'll send it to you.
Korppi
Yes,
is also
so-
Amazing.
Really?
My
Wow.
family, they all sing together. It's a family tradition to have sing-alongs. And there's many musicians in my family. But when I was a kid, about 7 or 8, I was always playing outside in the yard here in Georgia and running through the woods and not doing my homework. And so when the piano teacher came over and I didn't have it done, the classes were canceled. So I continue to jam, but without any of the technical understanding. And I did continue to kind of just play on the piano for fun. But all I can do is do, 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 do.
Furlies.
So what I've done is to gather musicians together and welcome the audience to make art while the band plays, and then to sing some lyrics that have come out through poetry. And I might not even understand exactly what I'm talking about, but I just sing it anyway, to, if you have a strong feeling, to capture a moment. And so I did do that in the past, and it was wonderful. I loved it. But now I just try to seek out live music. And as soon as there is some live music, I will dance as freely as I feel is appropriate. Because, in some situations you want to kind of settle down a little bit, but I can really go all out with dance and just feel like Casey's mentioned, if you're in your element with some activity, it is almost a divine inspiration.
It's a flow.
So I do feel that way with dance, as well as just with jamming, collaborating with musicians. So I'd like us to persevere and have this open mic night one day.
Yeah, we should.
Yes,
we should.
that sounds
We
awesome.
should.
And then Korppi could be making, a big canvas in the background or even on the screen. I mean, it could be really far out.
Actually, I do a lot of impro. The campfire fests that we have here. I sing whatever comes in my mind, and
Wow.
yeah, that's my element too.
Yeah. Wow.
Great. Oh, we could
Well,
I
jam.
love
Please start a
surrounded
band.
by so many musicians, I wanted to ask, Luke, a lot of the things that are going on in the world seem to be kind of hijacked, and frequencies and music is not, immune from that. So the standard tuning being 440 hertz versus sacred solfeggio music scale of 432 or 528. Do you ever tune your instruments to sacred harmonics before you play?
Wow. Thank you for bringing that up. So you're talking about like just intonation and those equal temperaments. Yeah, it's very interesting what happens when you actually tangibly play in those temperaments, or listen to anything in those temperaments. I do believe in the power of those, because our body is kind of like this vessel, this resonating vessel, right? And in the whole world, in this realm, there are frequencies that are good and that are positive, and then there are frequencies that are bad. For example, there was I can't remember who it was, but I can't remember the science teacher's name.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did was they took 2 bowls, and what they did was they filled each bowl with water. He had the class speak into the water nothing but loving things,
Mm-hmm.
nothing but positive energy, nothing but reassurance, like, I think you're so beautiful, water, or thank you, water, for giving me so much life and sustaining me. And then they took that bowl, they put it in the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
Then they went to the other bowl, and the science teacher said to them, now I want you to yell negative things. I want you to literally yell negative things into the water and say the worst, meanest things you can.
Mm-hmm.
So the class did it, and they took that bowl and they put it into the freezer. Casey, when they removed the bowls and you saw the water that, and I'm getting chills just
Me too.
thinking about it. When they looked at the bowl that had nothing but love and positivity just infused into it by all these different people, it was the most perfect piece of ice anyone in that class had seen. And then when they took out the bowl with all the negative things, the ice was so ugly. It looked so hurt. It looked so scarred. It didn't even look like ice. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I'm a big believer that people really need to experiment far beyond the 440 models, of course, 432, and some of the ancient.
Just you're such a powerful healer. You're not just a musician. You have the power to actually heal people from a spirit level. And I think that's just an admirable thing to, witness.
Yeah.
It's so important from, quantum physics perspective. The frequencies that we play to our bodies have huge weight on, the future of your health.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I was just wondering if you ever tune, your instruments, or if you focus on making sure that your stuff is in those sacred frequencies.
So when I was a student at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and also at UT Austin in Texas, I was a member of the early music ensemble. So we played a lot of Baroque music, early Baroque. I was the harpsichordist, and we dealt in we played music in 410, 415. I think at one point we even tried 432. We did all sorts of different intonations. And my goodness, the experience that you get, the sonic experience, and the resonation that happens with inside of you.
Have you ever heard of cymatics?
I've heard of it. I'm not too familiar.
You gotta play with that. We should play with it on our open mic, where you take like a plate of sand and you hook it somehow to your instrument, and then as you strike the keys, it'll make sacred geometry in the sand.
I've seen it.
So fascinating.
So I've seen that, but I've never actually done that. So
try it.
Geometry is literally sound frozen in time, and that's what it is.
Yeah, it's so you're doing math in action. It's so amazing. And if it's mathematically sound, then it's going to heal everyone that hears it.
So we actually at the graduate level and the postgraduate level, we took these very abstract courses on the harmonic series, and we had to know all the partials. We had to learn them all, and if you divide the string here and you divide the string here, what the pitch is. It's just absolutely fascinating, all that stuff. And that so I'm a definite firm believer in those practices, in those methodologies. And I think too often a lot of people don't. I think if a lot of practices and artistic disciplines, or even scientific disciplines, I think if they look towards things like harmonics and what you were saying about the sacred geometry, I think a lot of things will be revealed to us. A lot of mysteries and things will unlock.
Well, the scientist Masaru Emoto, and he also did those experiments with water, and they took water that they played Bach symphony to, and they also played heavy metal music to it. And those crystals, when they were frozen, did the same thing. So if you think that we are water, that, you know, when you're listening to heavy metal music, you might be enjoying it, but those frequencies are still distorting your waters of your body. So, you know, it's like a big deal. And to me, music has been weaponized. So for these new platforms that are like emerging for musicians and creators and artists, I love to know that the creators of those new platforms actually know about this stuff and can help to educate as we, you know.
I'm glad you brought this up. I'm going to say this very quickly. Now, obviously, I'm not going to mention any artists, but I was listening to SoundCloud the other day and Spotify.
Oh, they compress the music so much that you lose so much out of what the original composition was. They flatten everything, so you can't hear it all.
Yeah, absolutely. But there were, you know, if you listen to certain songs by certain artists, especially within the last like 10 years, I remember, I think maybe it was after I might have had a little hemp. I'm not sure. I think maybe I did. So I'm just sitting there and I'm listening and I'm thinking, wow, why does this sound so dark to me? Why am I getting this negative resonance? And when I changed the song, I went to another person's song and I did not have the same feeling. So yeah, I can understand, you know, where some people, if you're open to those kinds of things and you're always listening and you're in tune and you're listening to people and you're open to receiving those types of warning signs or messages, you know, whether they be positive or negative, you will be able to pick up on there's just something not right here. And
it's the slightest little, if you listen to two guitars played in 440 verse, it's so slight, but literally 440 is designed to create feelings of frustration, irritability, anger, you know, all these things, when 432 is actually like proven that it will make you feel gratitude and love and all these different things. So, you know, it's just, they just tweak everything a little bit, you know? So I just, knowing that you know about that stuff and can, in your own way, you know, bring that into Blarecast, which I'd love to learn more about here soon, you know, is, to me, it just gives me hope for the future of creation of music and hosting it and all that good stuff. So
absolutely.
Just had to ask.
Luke, can we get back to your organ playing? Because I would have thought sitting in front of one of these enormous organs in a church, that must, I mean, because that's a wall of sound coming out at you. So that must be a very spiritual experience. I would have thought playing the organ in a church. Is that how it strikes you?
Yeah. So so what's really fascinating about the organ is that it can play louder than some symphony orchestras. Yeah. But it could also play as soft as the softest string you could even imagine, or the breathiest sound you can even imagine. It's just it's basically an orchestra at your fingertips. That's what the organ tries to do. You've got like reed stops that try to signify trumpets. And then you've got what are called principals, which is the principal sound of the organ. So when you hear the sound, I know it's an organ. But then you have other stops on the organ, like strings that can sound beautiful like strings, or even like a human voice. Or other solo flutes, and then you have other things called like mutations and mixtures. And this, Casey and Diddy, it gets into the harmonic system where you can build sounds on the harmonics. So you have a stop called like a tierce. So it's like a 1 1/3. So when you play it at, let's say, a middle C, it's like 2 octaves and a third above the pitch that you're playing, but you can also draw pitches at that same pitch, and you can build all sorts of different wonderful sounds. And then you have mixtures, you know, 4 rank, 5 rank, 6 rank mixtures, where they're mixtures based upon a very simple harmonic progression of, let's say, the root, the 5th, and maybe the 9th. But it adds this beautiful brilliance and color to the organ, and it's just really fascinating, you know.
And do you play pipe organs? Do they have the pipes
Yes.
and all of that?
Yes, yeah. I've played.
Amazing.
I've played all over the United States. I've played in Europe. You know, it's a very competitive field. I know in the UK, the organists are trained so wonderfully. They're absolutely trained so wonderfully. So when you go to Westminster Abbey or any one of these great cathedrals, you're going to get great music.
And just the acoustics in those churches is
that's the
incredible,
thing.
isn't it?
So
I mean,
Is that
that's
one of
really...
your? I say, is that one of your future wishes that you could maybe play at Westminster Abbey?
Well, I don't. Well, I have. So I have played. I was the cathedral organist here at. We have a lot of cathedrals, obviously, because of the 50 states. There was a cathedral called St. Joseph's in West Virginia where I used to play. But you know, something as prestigious as Westminster Abbey or the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris or any of these other cathedrals. I don't know if it's a goal of mine to do that. Although I do know that I do have a lot of friends that are directors of music at very famous cathedrals. One being the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, which is in Washington D.C.
Oh, that's
Dr.
beautiful.
Peter Latona, and I remember this is years ago. There was I think it was an assistant position that opened up, and he called me up and said, "Hey, if you'd like to apply, I'd love to receive your application." Well, I never did. Because I was actually at my own cathedral as the cathedral organist. And it's just sometimes the stars just don't align for those types of things. Although I can say that my music, some of my sacred music compositions have been performed at these cathedrals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and that in and of itself is, I think, a little more fulfilling because I love, you know, there's so much good music out there. There's so many incredible people that are so talented.
Yeah,
What they're doing, and I've just even at my age, and even after everything that I've accomplished, I can still find myself just completely mesmerized and blown away by someone, and that is just so refreshing for me, and it makes me want to work harder as well. So, yeah.
Well, that's how we feel about you, Luke,
Yeah.
today.
Yes.
So do go on and tell us about your compositions that you did produce and publish. You have the Psalter and the Divine Liturgy.
Oh yeah. So, well, it first started out with, you know, one of my goals in life when I was young or younger, in my early 20s, is that I wanted to kind of break into the sacred music world and be a sacred music composer, like choral music, you know, responsories, you know, songs or psalm settings for the church. And it took a couple of times for me to kind of break into the publishing door, but I eventually got there. And then I would send them things and they would publish them, or sometimes they would say, no, you know, we don't really have a market fit for this. But I had this goal to set the entire Lectionary Psalter, which is a 3-year comprehensive, so it gets through all the readings and it's all the Psalms settings, they're musical settings of the Psalms for the feast days or Sundays or holy days. And it took a long time. I started it back in 2007, and I did not finish it until 2017. And I took that whole time kind of tweaking them, making them sound right. I would try them out either at cathedrals or other churches, and they're like, oh, that just doesn't sound right. So I'd go back to the drawing board and really try to get it right. So a lot of deliberation. I'm so glad I took the time to work on it as long as I did. And you know, to get it exactly where I wanted it, and even when the publisher wanted to agree to it back in 2015, we still took those 2 years from 2015 until it's released to really kind of get things right, and that's been a major part of not only my personal professional musical journey, but it's also been a part of my professional journey as well. I'm not saying that, you know, of course, Blarecast is still going to be 10 years until we come out, but when it comes to like the creative works, I have been very deliberate and it's taking a long time. So for example, it's one of the other projects that I've worked on was the Divine Liturgy, which is an a cappella setting. If you're familiar with the Orthodox Church, you know, obviously the only instrument that they're allowed to have in the church is actually the human voice. You know, there are no other instruments in the church. It's just the human voice. So a lot of choral singing. So it was just merely an exercise for me to write this, because it took. I've really struggled with my own personal faith, and I'm still struggling to this day, but it is getting better. And it really, when it first started out, was just an exercise for me. Of course, it's written in Slavonic, the basis of the Russian language. I wanted to use the Cyrillic alphabet. I had to get it just right, get the prosody just right. So when a native Russian speaker was to hopefully sing it someday or to come in contact with it, it would just sing very naturally for them and sound very natural to them. And I took a lot of time, which was just a personal practice, because I wanted to try to figure out my faith and the faith of my forebears, and it just started to grow and it started to morph, and I finally got it recorded by a choir in St. Petersburg, Russia, and they fell in love with it immediately. And now I've got contacts in the at Christ the Savior Cathedral in Moscow, and the director of music there just loved it so much and said, "This is so beautiful." And he said, "I would like to use this at divine services here with our choir when the patriarch is there and all that stuff." And I'm just so humbled by that. And it's just, again, it was just, I'm still struggling with my faith though. And that project took almost 9 years to create. And I worked on it. I worked on a little bit every day, or maybe there were a week would go by where I wouldn't look at it at all. It was a lot of erasing. It was a lot of taking things away. I've noticed that I love to edit, and I love to go back and look at it again and look at it again. It's not about adding things for me. It's about taking things away and really trying to clear off the dust like an archaeologist, try to find the edges to really get to the essence of what I'm trying to say creatively. And I always find that the eraser is the best writer. It's the best writing.
Amazing.
But that's also in touch with your roots, right?
Yeah.
Your family history.
I was going to say, with Russia, I mean, that must be incredible fulfillment of
Absolutely.
ambition.
Could you say that again about about your background? Something about how your family was Ukrainian and Russian?
Oh yeah, so my mother, on my mother's side, is Russian, a little bit of Ukrainian, and on my dad's side we've got Yugoslavian, Ukrainian, Carpatho-Russian. Some people would say, "Oh, so you're Slovak?" No, not quite. We're from the Carpathian Mountains. So there's or another one, Ruthenian. So you can say Ruthenian as well. So yeah, from that region of the world is where our both my families are from. So, and that has we grew up with a very beautiful tradition. Of course, we celebrated Christmas on January the 7th, and Christmas is a very important holiday for us. Different foods. During Advent or Lent, you're fasting. You're not eating any meat, any dairy. You can't use olive oil. So there's a lot of restrictions too, which actually helps good bodily practice. So when you actually get a chance to eat these foods, you're like, wow, does that taste so good?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
discipline in different
taking
ways.
away again.
Yeah, exactly.
To enhance the experience.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you.
So, Diddy,
Go on, then.
So Diddy, how
did you find
get into
Bitcoin?
Yeah. My journey is pretty wild in crypto, and I hate to use the term crypto because obviously we know that there's no cryptography in Bitcoin. Thank you, Dr. Wright. So I kind of got into I got into a lot of altcoins at the beginning. I was really big into Zcash, and I was into the ERC20 token, like Ethereum.
But how did, going from music, how did you come across crypto in the first place? You're very choral music, you're in, playing your organs, you're composing your literaries. So where did that come from?
How were you introduced to it?
I was watching a few channels, YouTube. Like on YouTube, like opinion broadcasts, And some of them started talking about, they'd say Bitcoin, and I never really gave it any thought. I wasn't really thinking about it. And I was like, I really need to look into this. And I got into Bitcoin right before, months and months before that huge run up in 2017.
Okay.
It was right at that time, right in that year, the early part of that year. And I was, I hate to say it, I was pulled in so many different directions, right? And I was pulled at like, oh, look at this crypto, or look at that one, or this this crypto can do this.
We've all been there, Luke. We've all been there.
And it's crazy, but it's so
still happening. So many people.
But that's exactly how these people, these terrible people, are trying to asymmetrically destroy Bitcoin when all we needed was one. And how do you destroy Bitcoin? By asymmetrical warfare. All these proliferations of coins that can't do nearly just an eighth of what the real Bitcoin can do. So I got into XRP. I was at it's backed by the banks. All these people, and I caught the XRP wave in 2017, and that was pretty wild. And I was like, whoa, this what is going on here?
That's the frustrating thing, isn't it? You can be wildly wrong and still make a shit ton of money.
I know.
Well, I got some XRP when it was 3 cents. I got rid of it at 33 cents. So,
I think I did something like that myself.
Yeah.
But we know better
I always
now.
liked the name Ripple Effect. Ripple. I thought, ooh, that sounds cool. But I never bought any.
So I got into all of that, and I bought a ton of altcoins that really don't do anything. I've done well. I've done poorly. But then, I started to think, why do we have all of these coins? There's something going on here. And then I was looking at how the crypto community was attacking someone called Craig Wright. And especially there was an XRP YouTuber, I won't mention their name. This person was going about, when Craig Wright was on Twitter, he was really going after XRP and saying, these are illegal security offerings, da-da-da-da-da. And the XRP community was like really going at him like full bore, like really hard. And I was subscribed to this person's XRP channel. And what he was saying was triggering not the effect that he wanted from someone who's subscribing to him. And I sat back and I'm watching this, and then I shut it off, and I was thinking, I really should probably read what this guy is saying and what he's all about. So I started, and I read more, and I was like, oh my goodness. Just like Shem says, I'm on the wrong chain, This is not good.
When the penny drops, it's like a massive, it's a big explosion going on, it's like,
there's not going to be enough chairs for people to sit in when the music stops.
It's crazy. And I got into Bitcoin SV, like right at around like $50-$60. That's when I got in. I was like, why am I holding all of this stuff that no one's going to use? And I'm seeing like what's happening. And then I discovered Captain Bitcoin, right? So I moved everything into BSV. So I'm like looking like, where can I find all this?
Okay.
And then I found the Bitcoin SV channel, and at that time it was Shem and Toshi and Tramp, and these guys just had me in stitches.
Yeah,
like, these guys are so fun. And then I discovered people that in the BSV community on Twitter, and they were just so kind. They were so supportive. It was just totally different than what I was used to. Of what crypto and then when you read
I definitely experienced that.
Unbelievable, just the change, and I just will never. I can't go back. I just can't.
You know what I think is so brilliant about the people in the BSV community is that we won't let anyone else do our thinking for us, and that makes all the difference.
You got to put that on a T-shirt.
You
Yeah,
should.
you should.
Put that on our coffee mugs.
Yeah.
But that's what takes us beyond. I don't think a
Yeah.
lot of people get that
Yeah,
from the
we need
outside,
that,
but we
yes.
won't let anybody,
No.
tell us.
Well, and we have intuition and discernment, which are from within, and you can listen to Craig and get those hits from within. It's
Yeah.
You just have to actually let his frequencies hit your ears enough to understand. Oh my gosh,
And then there's no excuse for anybody
unlearn
either,
it.
because there are hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of Craig explaining Bitcoin,
I
explaining
know.
what it is, and going through all the technicals and all the fundamentals. So if you really want to learn about it, then you can do, because it's all
It's
out
all
there.
there.
And obviously you said XRP. Well, recently, I mean, they've been in trouble for a very long time, in and out of the courts for a very long time, and the SEC is still. I mean, didn't the SEC just say, well, you are an illegal security, and Brad's is still kind of trying to argue that fact, but he knows.
Talking about the BSV ecosystem, we think for ourselves, but not only do we think for ourselves as much as possible, we do pay attention to try to do that more and more, but we're also always learning, and we have variety. So there are people that you see on Twitter that are arguing over fundamentals, and it's inspiring because it does keep us on our toes. I see
true.
some people, like we had as a guest, the creator of Anne, Luke.
Okay.
Yes, and
other
he
Luke.
Scatman.
exactly, Mr. Scatman.
Yeah.
Mr. Scatman, he keeps us on our toes, and he says it like it is from his experience.
Yeah.
And
But he
that
makes
is very
good points.
valuable.
He
to
makes
have
good
this-
points. Yeah.
He makes very good points, and people like Daniel Crowitz and even Satoshi and Joshua Hensley, all of these people that they do put content out there on a regular basis, or even in the beginning put content out there on a regular basis, and we're always learning from them. And we might disagree with them, but we still continue to listen and learn. And it's the same even with all of us women of BSV. We disagree on many things, but we always listen to each other and we learn from each other.
And have open enough minds to take in new information and keep what's ours and leave the rest.
Yeah.
That's-
So you're watching the BSV channel then, is how you then obviously got involved with Shem and then Blarecast. So how did
That's
that
right.
project come about
Yes.
between the two of you?
Because that's a great friendship.
I mean, that's a huge project. It's
Yeah.
not big, taking on the music industry in that way with this disruptive technology, being able to make sure that all the musicians and artists get their PRS, their performing rights, etc. I mean, that's a huge, lawyers,
Oh yeah.
boardroom meetings.
So I started to watch the Bitcoin SV channel. I was already into BSV, for a little while, and I reached out to Shem, and he got back to me. I said, because he was like, I had some like little sound effects and things like that I had, or maybe some like pieces of music that I thought that maybe he could use for the show, and he said, yeah, just send them over. So I sent it to them, and he wrote me back and said, oh, wow, this stuff is really great. So we started to talk on Telegram, and he was sharing with me about who he was and his show. And, he's a musician as well. And then he had me on the show at very,
I remember.
Shortly after that.
I remember first hearing you speak and thinking, that guy's brilliant.
Me too. I was listening as well.
Yes. So
I remember you always being in the troll box and just being really nice and polite and lovely to everybody.
Thank you. So so Shem and I started this relationship. So then Shem started to share his vision of this music streaming platform on Bitcoin SV. And this is Shem's baby, right? And here he is like sharing this, with me. And he said, I really want to do this. I've tried to do this before he started, Lord knows when he started before I came to. So we've been working on this for about 2.5 years.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because I know about it from the start.
I have no idea. I have no idea how long he's been working on it, like before that, because he said I've been trying to work on it before with like like trying to get other ideas from other people. So we sat down, we talked about it, and he sent me a message. He said, who do you think should be CEO? And I said, Shem. I said, there's no question. I said, you need to be the CEO, and I'm going to tell you why. These are the reasons why. The reasons why is because of this. You're so positive. This was your baby. This is your vision. You got me excited about this, and it was just, we have we're just so synergistic. It's just, I love him like a brother. We have chatted on the phone till, for hours and hours. We've cried together. We've prayed together. We've laughed like nobody else's business together. It's just been so organic, the growth that we've had. We've been through so many different things, and being in venture capital and meeting all these different personalities and all these different people and trying to work with these different personalities and different people. My goodness, the story we are going to be able to tell after all of this is said and done. It's just incredible.
It's a film within itself, it says, with your musical composition as the film score.
I will say, you and Shem both are some of the brightest souls, I think, in BSV. I can't exactly say what I mean, but you're both so open and so unguarded and so confident. You've got that sort of light from within, both of you. So I think you're like a dream team. I think you're going to go all the way.
I really appreciate that. And we have worked so hard. Shem has worked so hard. And I want to say this about Shem. And I'm going to try to say this without crying. He's helped me become a better person. Just the way he's able to take a step back and just kind of look at everything. And just his approach, and just how he can say something to me, and it's just like, wow, Shem, I never thought of it that way before. That's really, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And he's really helped me become a better person. Because I do have some social awkwardnesses that I've had to work on and really try to get right. I'm 40 years old. And it's been a real journey for me.
We wouldn't know it.
Well, like I said, it's been a real journey.
I mean, I believe you, but it doesn't show. So you're obviously struggling on the inside much more than the outside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm 40 as well. I'll turn 40 this month.
Yeah, I was curious how
happy
old
birthday.
you were.
Yeah,
I'm 30.
Yes. So we're all close. Now Korppi, she's has youth on her
youngling.
side as well.
Oh,
But
wow.
we all are like at the same level,
Mhm.
we're all, and also I find 40 today, I don't know if it's something to do with the time speeding up,
Yeah.
but I feel like 40 today is like 20 yesterday.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Maybe because of we're living longer, healthier lives
I
with
think
greater
so.
information
I think
about
so.
nutrition and health and even the attitude.
So I turned 40 and I got so passionate about, nutrition and working out, and hey, rather than using this, there's this organic other thing that's actually better for you in the long run. We've always kind of, my partner and I have always kind of eaten right. But during COVID, I felt that I was starting to get a little unhealthy. And I started to say, I got to pull that back. And now my partner, Cassidy, she's got me on this, like, I'm lifting weights. I'm doing
Wow.
chippers, I'm trying to walk 4 miles a day and do some intermittent jogging in between, and just really kind of work on my body.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah. And it's been, man, what a change. It's just like, wow, you just feel so alive, and you feel like you're 20 years old again.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I have to say, I have no idea what any of you are talking about. I felt like I was 80 years old since I was about 15. I got rheumatoid arthritis age 15, and it's,
no.
it is what it is. But I'm
Oh.
slightly jealous of how well people, I have to admit.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I mean, I just constantly focus on the things that I can do, and I try not to worry about the stuff that I can't. And it has no bearing on happiness. Let me say that.
Oh, that's great.
No
That's
bearing.
Great. That's great. That's good to hear. That is good to hear. Korppi, I very fascinated with Lapland. That is a region of the world that I kind of fantasize about living in someday. Can you tell me a little bit about it? I just love the pictures from there, and I love snow. By the way, I just love it.
It's actually falling at this moment.
Really?
It's the second snow. The first snow fell when we were at the meeting with the ladies, and that melted. But this is gonna maybe stay. And where should I start? Snow. Yeah, I have a snowmobile. I love it.
Oh,
I
wow.
love the speed and
That's
the
great.
wilderness.
Yeah.
And it's the freedom that cannot be described. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. And the darkness, this is pitch black. You need a headlamp to go out right now. And the auroras were last night also, and the night before that. So
you can see that from where you are. You can see the aurora borealis.
I'm now in a holiday village that I work in because we are closed. So I got this privilege to be at this riverside cabin. This whole wall is a window, actually.
Oh,
Amazing.
And I can see the auroras from my bed when I.
Send us some pictures.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes,
awesome.
and she also has wilderness skills. So Korppi can
Yeah.
track elk
Yeah.
and reindeer while hiking through the forest.
I can
I can't
actually
help but feel we should all go up there and
Still.
skill up at some point, don't you
Yeah.
think?
Definitely. Survival
Let's
skill 101.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to have a meet up there, Korppi.
That would be so fabulous to do that.
Do they have the clear igloos somewhere where you can like camp outside in those clear igloos?
We were actually, they are very expensive and they are in the tourist centers. But we are actually planning, we talked about this today. It was weird that you bring that up because we just checked a place where we're going to build this igloo this winter. So we're going to do our own.
That's
Amazing.
fantastic.
Wow. And it's warm inside the igloo, right? You feel warm.
Yes, very warm.
Wow, amazing.
You're very welcome to come to Finland. I will be your guide.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, we're coming, so we'll have to organize that for sure. I think there'll be plenty of abundance in our futures just for being on the right side of history here, to be able to, maybe treat ourselves to a clear igloo someday.
I think that
Oh,
would
be wonderful.
That
Yeah.
would be
And we can jam around the fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a date for sure.
Luke, can I ask, can you play piano, at family gatherings and celebrations and stuff? Are you like a pianist? I know you write these lovely compositions that are, obviously big strings and all the rest of it. But are you a kind of a family entertainer as well? On occasion.
There are no pianos like at any family's houses, so I don't really get a chance to play with family.
That's a shame.
Sometimes it's if I'm out with friends. There was this bar. There was a piano in this bar in Carnegie, PA, which is just right outside of Pittsburgh, PA. It's actually considered Pittsburgh, PA. I'd be there with a bunch of friends, and they're like, "Hey, Luke, go play something." I'm like, "No, you know, just no, come on," and then they'll get me to do it, and they'll get me to come out of my shell a little bit, but I try to, you know, but I've always been so fascinated with people that can just entertain like that in front of people, and it's kind of, yeah,
got a repertoire, you know.
Yeah, I've never really that's never. I'm a little more on the introverted side.
Okay.
You know, when it comes to that. Although I still get very terrified and nervous when I play in front of people. But I find that the nervousness actually it means that I care, because I want to do such a good job for people. And every time I play, I try to keep this in mind. I try to play as though it's the last time I'm ever going to play. Like, what if this is the last time I play? What are people going to remember? And I try to really keep that in the forefront of my mind, you know.
No, it's a good point. My mum was an amazing pianist, self-taught, amazing, and she had a stroke and lost the use of her hand side of her body. And I remember her sort of sitting with her and her crying one day, and she's remembering the last time she'd been able to play the piano before her stroke. So it's good advice for life, I think, to play as if, you know, this is going to be your last. I don't mean to be maudlin or anything, but, you know, you just never really know when these skills are going to be taken away from you. So yeah, especially if you're really talented like you are, it's something that you desperately want to hang on to the ability to do, don't you? So
very important.
Walking 4 miles a day is probably a good thing.
So in absolutely. In 2010, I was in a terrible car accident, and I was almost ejected from the car through. I could have been. My head hit the windshield, and it cracked very, very, very badly. It was in very bad shape. I had chipped my shoulder, the bone in the shoulder, and then the doctors had thought that I split one of my. I don't remember what the name is. This the tibia? I split it, and they were thinking, "Oh, you're going to need screws. You're going to need screws." And I remember I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is, you know, is this it for me? Is this it?" And then I said, no. I said, no. I said, you know what? I'm going to beat this. I'm going to beat it. I am, everything is going to be fine. When I went back to the doctor said, well, that healed up really nicely. It doesn't look like you're going to need screws for that. And
that's Dr. Joe Dispenza. You are the placebo.
And my
power of the mind.
My sixth grade teacher, Mrs. Skiles, may she rest in peace. Mrs. Skiles, she had this acronym, PMA, Positive Mental Attitude.
Yeah.
That is what I remember in 6th grade. And that I'm so grateful for her for instilling that in me when I was young. Like, no, keep that positive, you know, keep that positivity. You know, yeah, it may seem really unbearable now, but your mental thinking is
powerful.
It's so powerful.
Yeah,
it's so powerful. And I think too often, and I don't mean to, I don't want to get political. This is more from a humanistic standpoint. I think too often the sciences are doing so much to tell us how insignificant we are, that we're nothing but a speck of dust, and we're just so insignificant. No, think about the huge impact that we have on other human beings, a positive or negative, and we are significant. You know, otherwise, you know, what does it matter? So what we do for people, you have no idea. You could have saved somebody's life just by saying the kindest word to them. You have no idea.
The ripple effect.
Absolutely, yes. XRP, no.
No.
Right, but it's so strong, posers can't even tame it. You know, that ripple effect, it gongs.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to look back at history as well. You look at the pyramids, for example, of a achievement by human beings that's lasted for millennia. You know, and that is a powerful thought process as well to have. However they were made, you know, there's still debate about it, but
those are sound resonating devices for healing, though. Have you ever played with any of that kind of stuff? Do you know about that saxophonist that was boiling water with sound frequencies? What was his name? Have you ever played with any of that kind of?
No, but I'm familiar with some other like practices that some other instrumentalists have done. But yes, like I said, like our bodies are this huge, a resonator, much like the pyramids and things. I know that who was the name? What was the other name of the artist? They actually went down. She was a composer from I think the 70s. They went down into this. They went down beneath the earth. There was like this huge like chasm. It's like this stone chasm, and she played and all the acoustics then and just what it was able to do. And she said what a transformative experience it was for her. With the pyramids, there's so many different theories about that. But so you're saying that it's like a sound like resonator. So
yeah, I think his name was Peter Davy. I'm looking it up, but he died with his secret to boiling water with sound from his saxophone.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Finding the right frequency.
So you're saying the sound of a saxophone was able to, well, obviously we all know about the opera singer. If they sing at a certain frequency, they'll fracture the glass. So I guess this is so you're saying that there's a frequency that he played that he was able to boil water with?
Yeah, let me look up Peter.
I mean,
it's all just energy, isn't it? I mean, you know how when bubbles pop, they give off light, don't they?
I mean, sound because there is this thing about ancients as well, because obviously sound can levitate objects, and they were saying about obviously the stone, you can levitate stone. So if the sound is at a low enough frequency and it's resonating and it is possible to levitate stone. It just has to be done in the right way. There's Adam's calendar in South Africa, and this is somebody that both myself and Casey know, Michael Tellinger. He has a lot of really good old ancient knowledge about like sound resonance and frequency and stones, and how there are some Taurus stones, and these Taurus stones are quite interesting as well, because they actually generate, they've got a hole in the center of them, and they actually generate an energy field within the center of a Taurus stone, which actually then can resonate a very low frequency as well. So and same with you've seen the experiments with plants, where people have hooked up a leaf of a plant, and you put that through a meter, and you can actually figure out what the frequency of the plants are that they're resonating at, and they talk to you. Have you not seen those experiments?
No, I have not seen.
They're phenomenal, because the plants then actually sing at a certain resonance, and it's like the sound that they recorded from the spaceship when I think there's like a couple from like the sound of Jupiter and the sound of Mars.
I've heard that.
You speed it up, it sounds like an orchestra that's being played as well. And there is this kind of, in the Bible it says about let there be light, but there needed to be sound before there was light. Otherwise, where does the let there be light come from?
Sound preceded light, for sure.
Word.
So Ruth, you were talking about the bubbles.
Yeah,
and the
when
scientists
they burst,
can't,
they give off light.
and the scientists cannot explain why. Right?
I
don't think they figured it out.
It's
why
definitely
that happens.
collapsing. It's some effect of converting sort of sound energy into light energy.
Shall we experiment? I've got bubbles right here.
Well, Luke, I just
bubbles
really
coming up
wanted
from the bottom of the sea. I think it's not in the air. I'm not sure that will work.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't think they're going to produce any light.
I see them.
Nice.
Go ahead, Casey. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, that kind of stuff absolutely fascinates me, and I don't have the, inner knowledge to be able to play with this stuff, but people like you being equipped with this research and letting it trigger those, things from within your knowledge base that could maybe help us get this technology, figured out to where we can duplicate it, because he died with his invention. But yeah, it was amazing. He was A small device uses sound waves to boil water almost instantly.
Does it say whether he's which is he playing a soprano, an alto, a tenor, a bass? What kind of level of, what octave are we talking?
It said 92-year-old musician has invented instant boiler. Saxophonist and tinkerer Peter Davy appears to have made a sonic boiler, a small device that uses sound waves to boil water almost instantly. But he's had the device for over 30 years. And, these are the kind of things that if
There's
that
so
kind of
much we
sound
don't
can
know
generate
about
free
sound.
energy, they don't want that type of technology out. That's what has clearly been blocked the same way that Bitcoin has been blocked. It's the same people.
Korppi.
Oh, I have to say, this is the perfect occasion. Do you know why cats purr?
Go on.
They actually can heal their bones, even if their bones are broken. They can actually heal their bones
Wow.
with the resonance of the purring. That's
Wow.
that's amazing. Like
We
they
are
always wondered why cats purr, and they're healing themselves. And
Yeah.
it's-
Our bones are tuning forks.
Yeah,
What?
I can
Our
believe it.
bones are tuning forks.
yes.
So that
Yeah,
if you think of parasympathetic resonance too, if you have a tuning fork and you strike it and you bring another one up next to it, that one will resonate.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do to each other. If you're in a really good mood and you are around someone, you can raise their vibrational frequency
Like this.
just by being around them. You don't have to say or do a thing. It's all happening on a quantum field that we're all connected to, which is what I've been trying to say about the power we have to come together and realize that we're all quantumly entangled, and how quickly we can change the magnetic and energetic field around us, especially when you come together in music and sacred harmonic frequency.
And that goes back to what I was saying about how significant humanity is and how significant we are, and what we do, and how we impact people is just so important.
Well, and actually knowing that you're a tuning fork and being conscious of that, and just be the broadcast of what you want to see in the world, because we're constantly communicating with that nonverbal quantum soup. So if you're not aware of this, it can allow you to stay in those lower levels of consciousness because you don't know any better. But once you know better, you do better organically. So this is the stuff that that I really just absolutely love, that you guys are changing the music game, because it needs to be changed. It can be a dark place and suck a lot of artists, suck the power out of them, that sacred power from them, and they deserve to be able to hold on to that. So I love that you guys are kind of equalizing that situation too.
It's a very, very, very opaque, very difficult industry. It can be. There's a lot of things that are done a certain way that would probably make no sense to other industries, but that's the way it's done there. And there's a lot of things that the record labels need and require, that a lot of things that artists need that aren't being, those needs are not currently being met. And with Blarecast, we're going to try to.
Can you go into some of those details of how you're going to change, property rights and stuff for?
Well,
it's okay if it's proprietary and you want to keep it under your hat, you do that. There's no problem.
But I want you all to know that these are things that are absolutely being discussed. They're being discussed with very, very important, very well-known people, and we are making a significant impact, because like Shem and I have said, we're not here to destroy the legacy music system. We want to show them, just unleash its potentiality. And there's just so many beautiful ways that can be done and expressed. And when I cannot wait to unroll and we just cannot wait to unveil Blarecast.
I can't wait to see it. I mean, what I saw on camera the other day at CoinGeek was very impressive.
This is a
it looked beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, that UI is really nice.
It's
it looks
slick.
very
Thank
friendly.
you. Well, it is a huge build. It's a huge build, and if you're building an application to scale for the world, we got to make sure it's done right. The features of this application, I get so excited when I talk about it.
You can tell.
So cool. You guys are going to love it, and of course, we want all of you, you at home, and those who are going to be listening to the broadcast later, to go to blarecast.com and sign up for private alpha and beta. We want your feedback during this time to say, once it's unveiled and people can start testing the platform. So yeah.
Yes,
And I hate to push you, but do you have any feeling for when that might be?
Well, somebody asked me that on Twitter, and I said that this is what I said. I said, when it's ready and not a moment too soon.
Yes.
So fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the suspense.
thing.
I know it'll be worthwhile. And yes, as you had mentioned your teacher about the power of positive thinking and to build up. And I feel compelled to say there's always more. So with Bitcoin, with everything, there's always more for everyone, and there's more than enough for everyone. So to have that concept of abundance, that is enough to enable everything to flourish, I believe.
I have a favor to ask all of you women of BSV. It's been so great talking to you like this as a group, but I would be very open to having like a video call with all of you, like one-on-one, and just to kind of, just to get to know all of you more, and you can get to know me more as well. So hopefully we can do that in the future.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Wouldn't it be great if we could meet in person again? That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
We
when you
will.
come to London.
Dubai, guys, Dubai.
Dubai. Oh yeah. Yeah, we actually have a member. We have a member of our team at Blarecast actually getting ready to fly to Dubai. I'm sure that they have already left. So yeah.
Wow.
So I have a couple of
Yeah.
questions. Will there be a referral? I mean, I'm already planning on driving lots of traffic to you because my target market is influencers and artists and stuff. So that's already who I'm talking to. So obviously I would introduce them to your company, but is there going to be like referral links built into Blarecast?
Yeah, so we
or?
are. So we're working on all sorts of interesting mechanisms and ways to keep the platform, sticky.
Incentives.
Incentives. And things like that. Obviously, I can't go into many details about it, but yes, like we're really, and that's a huge, when you're building an application, or you're building a project or a mechanism, a platform for people. There's so many things that you have to consider and think about, like, oh my goodness, how do we get from here to here? And you're thinking about how to put this puzzle together, and like incentives, referrals, ways to galvanize and embolden, active usership. That these are things that are so vital to any business. And it's been such a learning experience for Shem and I, because we have some people on the team that are tremendous, older fellas, and other people that we're surrounding ourselves with that are highly experienced, have been through so many different things. And I'll tell you what, it's really great getting one's ass kicked by someone who has done just tremendous work in the areas of business, and we're constantly trying to level up and learn all about all of these things, and it's been just a wonderful experience.
So was the CoinGeek kind of collaboration that you did, is that something that was quite recently? Because isn't Kelvin on board now?
The seed funds,
Yes. So we have just closed on our on the first part of our financing with Air Ventures as our lead investor, and we also have other investors as well, on the team. But we just didn't. It actually closed like right before, it was like right before CoinGeek. So, and it was great, just working with them, and they've just been so helpful, and it's just going to be really, really good. I cannot wait to just work with them, over the next several years, and really build up Blarecast, and we're really
I think it's a big project. It does need investment, doesn't it? This is not falling off a log that you're doing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
I'm so
fabulous.
excited for you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any final questions or thoughts they want to share? Or
I do. About your partner, is it Cassidy?
yes.
Yes. So I had seen your beautiful family, a beautiful couple.
Thank you.
And I wondered, was she singing on any of your work?
No. So a lot of the professional work was done by contract with other professional organizations. So my publishing company, one of them, like in Oregon, they'll contract the choir and the singers and the instrumentalists there, or in Chicago, they'll do the same thing. But no.
And does she also have a background in musical theater?
She does. She's a musician. She's a really great soprano.
Wow.
Yeah. She's really great, but she's very multi-talented. So she lifts weights. She's really into nutrition. She's been she takes care of animals, and she loves it. Like, she's got a lot of clients, or she takes care of the animals.
Yeah.
She's got so many. We were taking Krav Maga there for a while. That was really a lot of fun. She's just a really great, fascinating, individual, and I call her my partner. We're married. I've never been a big fan of the term, wife or husband. That's just something personal.
There's a lot of
that's quite
etymology
sweet,
to those
actually.
words.
Yeah.
There really is a lot of
Partner
etymology.
does
Right.
give her
Yeah,
some
and
respect of
Both
equality.
multi-talented partners. It makes sense.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
understand.
She is my partner. Yeah.
Exactly.
I must say, though, Luke, when I was listening to your music, it just, because I love, you said about musical theatre, I love musical theatre, and I love the theatre, and that feeling of live kind of music with an orchestra and everything. But you do make me feel like every day is a musical. So whenever I see you or speak to you, or I've seen you in this troll box, or I listen to your music, literally it is very uplifting for me, and it does make me want to just literally sing all day long, like life is a musical. So I thank you for that.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is my favorite film of all time is Amadeus.
Oh yeah, with
Right?
F. Murray Abraham as Salieri. Yeah, it's a great film.
Whoever it was that played Mozart. Yeah. Is composing like that, or is that entirely fictional?
I will say this. There are times where things come to you like so instant, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to get this out. And it just happens. And it just happens, just
Intuition.
It's just, intuition, or
Cosmic download.
Yeah. Or you were the resonator, you were the vessel to receive whatever this is from above. Other times it's a labor of love. Other times it takes years to complete things. So it's now it doesn't necessarily mean that one is better than the other. But it's just those two different experiences do take a lot out of the artist. Especially the moments where it just flashes and it's just so instant. I have to tell you, that's happened a couple of times to me, just a couple, and I feel completely tapped after that. Completely tapped.
Like somebody's been using your body.
Yeah.
You're like a drained battery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's cool.
And then after I completed the Divine Liturgy, which is a tremendous project that took almost 9 years, I did not write for quite a while after that, because it was just,
You're sort of spent.
yeah. Now I was doing some little other things along
Yeah,
the way when I also was working on the Divine Liturgy, but yeah, you just feel so spent, and honestly, to be honest, I have to say this, and I know a lot of people, when I've said this to people, they say, "Oh, why? How can you say that? How can you say that?" If I never write another piece of music again, I will still be happy, because I feel as though I've said what it is I needed to say. And like I said, there's so many other talented people out there. There's so much good music out there. There's so much good music that we haven't even heard yet.
Mhm.
And I'm happy with what I've said up until this point in my life. And if I never write another piece of music again, I can be happy with that.
It's an incredible body of work.
I get
for
that.
sure. I mean, amazing things. I'm in awe of, genuinely incredible musicians like yourself. I just can't imagine achieving that level of mastery. So I think it's wonderful. How do you think the musicians of the world have fared during all these lockdowns and things without being able to perform? It must have been very hard for people.
This whole thing has hit the music industry very, very, very difficult.
Hard. Mm-hmm.
Very hard, very hard.
It needed it knocking. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I have to tell you, this has been a wake up call for a lot of people, on a global scale. There have been a lot of things that have been transpiring as of late that are just completely mind blowing to me, and it's very scary to see. And I think this is such this time in history is such a huge opportunity for people like yourselves, for wanting to infuse light into the world and saying, look at what we can do. This is a tremendous time of opportunity, and
taking our power back too.
Exactly, because I think this has shaken the world, the whole thing, and the aftermath, and things that are currently happening in parts of the world that maybe shouldn't be going on right now. And of course, I'm saying that in a very politic way, and you can take that however you either for good or for bad or whatever. But this opportunity with Bitcoin SV, with the ideas that are coming out, this is a time of opportunity. The time now is to build.
Atlas is about to shrug real hard.
Wow.
Don't you think?
Yeah. Yes. I would agree. And
I just can't help but think
Ayn Rand gets a lot of hate. And I don't know why. I've loved reading her. And
she's made some
books.
good points.
Yes, she has.
We should listen to.
Absolutely, we should. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it's all great, but nonetheless, she's pretty well described. I think what's going to happen right now, which is there's going to be a bit of a parting of the ways. I hope not. I hope we can all stay together. That's what I'd prefer. But we do have these hard turning points in history sometimes.
Yes, we do. Yeah. Where was that? There was a civilization collapse in, what was it, 1187 BC? Is that right? But there was a time. What's really ironic is that in that time, that world, what they knew of as their world, was tremendously connected through trade, through all sorts of different diplomatic things, through marriages of royal families, etc. The world was very tightly connected at that time, and for some reason, society just kind of collapsed. And look at where we are now. We're so connected right now. We know what's happening all the way around. Yeah, halfway around the world or all the way around the world instantly now, and that's So I don't know. Can you want to finish this up for me?
Well, it doesn't guarantee peace and freedom, but let's all do our part. I think as
Yes,
long as we can all keep putting good vibes out into the world, that's
Absolutely.
we're doing.
And
what
thank
we
you for
can do.
creating such a beautiful platform that can help
Yeah.
restore the
We're very excited to use
power
it.
back to an
Thank
artist. I mean, that was so needed in
Yeah.
the future. So
well, we
we
look
are
forward.
very grateful and humbled and, you know, excited to be out here marketing for you.
Thank you so much, you all. This has been such an honor to be with you, and we cannot wait to have you, the women of BSV, and all of you listening to try out the platform. So
Great.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Looking forward to it.
Yes.
Very
we
much looking forward to it.
thank you.
Thanks.
Rory,
Thank you so much, Luke.
say goodbye for us because you're so good at it.
Oh, thank you, Ruth. Luke, thank you so much for your time today. We've learned a lot with you, and it's the start of a great friendship for all of us.
Thank you.
So
Thank
we'll
you,
look
Lori.
forward to welcoming the audience to your SoundCloud link. People can enjoy your musical creations and sign up for Blarecast. So
Thank you.
thank you, Luke. We hope you can come back soon.
Thank you, Rory. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Diddy. Thank you, Casey, and thank you, Korppi. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you
Thanks.
so
Thank you
much.
for coming. Bye.
Bye.